Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news. This is the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. Catch us live weekdays at 7 a.m. Eastern on Apple CarPlay or Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Listen on demand wherever you get your podcasts or watch us live on YouTube.
Michael Purves joins us now from Tallbacken. Is your narrative a bull market? I mean, my head is spinning. I got copious a number of people out of 7,000 plus SPX and others thinking the world's going to end.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you step back for a second and you think about, we have some level of fiscal stimulus through the big, beautiful bill, offset admittedly by tariffs. You have the concurrence of that with monetary stimulus. And I'm sorry, even if we get a Powell era type cutting cycle, it's still a cutting cycle into 4.3% unemployment and 3% plus GDP and 3% inflation. There, and then you have this I call it alternative fiscal stimulus through this AI CapEx boom, which is which is just almost just from four companies, you're talking about $700 billion over the next 24 months is whether they're guiding the street to. Those are the big guys, Microsoft and Amazon, et cetera. So look, that's a macro setup. I think the question we're all waiting for is, can earnings continue to deliver in an age where the K economy is getting worse, and also where some of these residual risks like tariffs hitting margins and or the consumer are starting to likely to persist and creep in. So far, that dance has worked, right? Mm-hmm. And it's hard to find a lot of broader evidence that it's going to suddenly fall apart anytime soon, but I think that's really the tension as we talk as we get into 2026. That's really where the tension is. The macro setup is really, really strong. One point I'm just going to make, Paul, you and I were talking about the 90s offline, but one thing we had in the mid and late 90s is you had this sort of persistent inflation not getting to the Fed's target. And you had, a good economic condition there. One thing that's different now is that, we have arguably, a refreshed cutting cycle here. And you didn't, you had what the Fed was sort of tweaking back in much of the last few years of the 1990s. If we get it doesn't seem to right now based on some of the Fed messaging, but if we do get, sort of a refreshed Fed and a refreshed sort of cutting narrative with this type of economic data, that is going to be a really interesting period unfolding.
Yep. So what do you think about volatility here? We have a VIX sitting right at 20. It doesn't seem to get anybody's attention too much, but it's certainly not 14 or 15 on the VIX here. What do you see in terms of volatility?
Look, the VIX has been it's sort of been interesting. We never really got down to those 11 and 12s that you normally associate with a strong bull market here. Part of that was that you had the right tail of the VIX call buying kind of support the VIX. Yeah, for most of the time you had a pretty robust volatility risk premium. That's the spread in my mind of the VIX to realized volatility there. And, just over the last week or so, you saw this sort of sort of push above 22 and then quickly fade those levels here. So I look at it right now, skew, meaning the difference between puts and calls, the implied volatility for those are, that's been really getting higher here, thanks a little bit to some of the volatility we saw last week. That's healthy there. If the everything else stuff performs, we don't get any real horrible news into year's end, that's going to help reinforce, I think, a sprint into the finish line of, maybe another 100 to 200 points higher in the S&P.
If the stock market gets out front, you've got a franchise on this. You've been really good on this cross asset of looking out. If the stock market is doing what it's doing, is it simply modeling out, we're going to get the economic data and this is what it's going to signal? Is the market making a bet on all that delayed economic data right now?
Well, there's a little bit of sort of, the markets are trying to sort of vibe their way through without this data that we're getting.
Lisa, is Michael Purves young enough to say vibe your way through?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Continue,
I'm not,
Mr.
but I
Purves.
have a lot of children, so they keep me informed. But right, whatever print we get on Thursday on jobs, we will arguably Nvidia will be a lot more instructive in terms of where the market's going to go than whatever the jobs data. If it's 50,000 or minus 50,000 or 120,000, like it all comes with a lot of footnotes, right? So you'll probably need a couple of months for that to sort itself out. But Tom, I think you're touching on a broader question, which is, can some of the jobs data get bad? Can some of the economic data be bad? And can the AI narrative, the AI-empowered stock market,
right,
if you will, can that keep going higher, right? I mean, one of the things I like to say is that Microsoft's mandate is to scale earnings, not to scale employees, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that will, arguably the Main Street, Wall Street disconnect may even get worse in an era of AI. And I think that's something to be watching for right now. If you're getting job losses because every company is just falling apart and the economic data is horrible, that's different. But right now you've got a very compelling sort of tech bull market.
Michael Purves with us for an extended discussion to get your market week going, as well as he mentions Nvidia reports this week. Lots of retail as well. This is Bloomberg surveillance across America. Glenn Hubbard will be with us. A really important interview on the Fed and the path forward from Professor Hubbard of Columbia Business School. He is the most intelligent supply side guy I know. Thrilled to have him on. In the 9 o'clock hour, we say good morning to the United Kingdom. Sir Howard Stringer will join us, and Paul and I have decided, we could go, how many hours could we go with Sir Howard?
Yeah,
3 hours.
He's had so many careers.
Sir Howard, CBS.
Exactly.
Okay, should Letterman have been allowed to retire? That kind of thing. No, we're going to talk to Sir Howard Stringer about what's going on with the BBC in the United Kingdom. I can't say enough about the timeliness of that. Paul Sweeney with Michael Purves.
Michael, in terms of derivatives here, are clients looking to buy risk, or are they buying protection here, more or less?
Well, it was a lot of the former, a lot of the upside call buying. That was into the sort of September and October peak there. That has shifted on balance. I think there still seems to be the retail bid for risk has not completely evaporated here. It's gotten, kicked it ahead a little bit over the last few weeks there. You can see this with various stock trading pairs. If you look at in the nuclear uranium space, you look at sort of established companies with real cash flows like Cameco relative to, say, an Oklo, which had a $20 billion market cap out of nowhere and had zero revenues, right? So I think what's happening here in the market here is that risk is still on, but there's a lot of cleanup, right? So there's a lot of people I don't think a lot of people are going to want to end the year with massively long, a lot of very speculative names that run up, 300% in 9 months.
Paul, I first thing I did when I came in, I did a weekly chart, because that's what Michael Purves does. Yep. I did a weekly chart of NASDAQ futures, NASDAQ 100. We have cratered. The maximum drawdown is a negative 6.7%. We've rebounded from that, and we have cratered down about 4% from futures highs.
There you go.
The angst is ridiculous. It's just absurd.
It is. So, Michael, what's the conversation you're having with clients today? Are they looking to kind of go long here? Are they looking to protect what they have? Or are they just saying, just get me to year end? What are they?
I think it depends on the type of strategy you're running, right? If you've had a solid, if you're a long short hedge fund and you're up nicely this year, I think a lot of them are just going into very conservative mode, trying to lock in their gains and all that. Some of the other managers, I think, are that are longer term and their strategies are not as agile or fast. Those tend to be a little bit sort of cautious, but still sort of structurally constructive, on the markets. There certainly are sort of, whether it's sort of some more hawkish comments from Fed folks, or whether it's at some of these credit blowups. They're sort of like, oh, wait a second, this party is not, the cops are starting. You can hear the sirens on the street a little bit. The question is how much, and I think that one message I'm really trying to explain to my clients is that this K-shaped economy we're having. 2026 may be a lot more K-shaped within the economy, and I think you have to manage portfolios with that in mind.
Then what do you do if we're steroidal K-shaped?
Well, let's look at just sort of income.
Buy more Google, is that?
Well,
the answer?
yeah. I think there's you want to stay in larger cap companies there, but I think you also look. I mean, I think if you look at we've all seen these things floating around of sub 650 FICO score. Delinquency sort of accelerating and all that. One of my big concerns right now is that lower income. If you look at the Atlanta Fed's wage tracker, they split up wage growth into income quartiles. The bottom quartile, the people making the least money, are seeing their wages grow the least, right? And they are the most vulnerable to seeing those wages become real wages become negative if inflation persists and this downward pressure on their wage growth happens there. And so, if you're exposed to any company that is exposure to that lower income group, that's going to be something you probably want to avoid.
Michael Purves, thank you so much. I got to ask you this as we roll up. And when's Thanksgiving? It's like the fourth Thursday?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like out there.
I'm working the day after.
Do you do the New Hampshire Thanksgiving? Like, are you at the Squam Lake Marketplace? LL Bean and Filson head to toe. Are you in Holderness? Like, do you hang out and have a cigar at the Squam Lake public boat launch?
The public boat launch this time of the year is pretty much wrapped up, but I would say no, the house gets locked up in October there.
You lock everything down.
Yeah,
in October. You don't go up. No. You don't. Do you have National Geographics? Old National Geographics on the porch?
I'm pretty sure we have a few of those, and like a Scrabble set missing 17 letters or something.
Exactly. Yeah, but you're still and the Parcheesi set in that wind, it just went away. This is the first I've said this. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Stay with us. More from Bloomberg Surveillance coming up after this.
You're listening to the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. Catch us live weekday afternoons from 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Listen on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Or watch us live on YouTube.
Joining us now, and I've really been anticipating this, is Glenn Hubbard out of Florida with just terrific academics and, frankly, giving energy to Columbia University's business school as their dean for so long. He's doing different things now, but I'm going to cut to the chase. Paul's got lots of Fed questions. Glenn, I am absolutely thunderstruck and crushed that you're not on the short list to be chairman of the Fed. Have you ever talked to the Secretary of Treasury about your commitment to a more conservative economic ethos?
Well, thanks for having me, Tom. I think the president's got a good short list for the Fed. I look forward to the choice. This is probably the most challenging time to run the Fed that I could ever imagine.
So that was diplomatic. See
that was exactly.
You learn to do that when you're Dean of Columbia.
Exactly. Glenn, how do you view the Fed here? It's in a little bit of a position that doesn't necessarily find itself very often, which is really under some political pressure from the White House here. How do you view the Fed these days?
Well, I think there's a short run and a long run challenge. The short run challenge is the one in the news, which is, what do you do about rates? You have inflation that's too high. You have a job market weakening. I think the case for a lot of rate cuts is pretty weak. To the extent that there are worries about employment, many of those are structural. They're AI. They're changes that really are beyond the Fed's purview. So I think the Fed's watchful waiting makes sense. Longer term, the challenge is, how do you keep an independent Fed in the presence of political pressures? And I think while the Fed needs to be independent, it has made mistakes. President Trump is not entirely incorrect. And so the next chair will have to do some reforms.
So you mentioned AI, Glenn. It's certainly been a key narrative of this market over the last 2 to 3 years as companies step up their spending here. But what are the impacts, do you think, on the U.S. labor force? There's a lot of consternation out there.
Well, I think it's too soon to tell. I mean, basically, AI can either substitute on the one hand for workers, or it can complement workers' skills. And we're seeing both of those in the labor market. It won't surprise you to know economists completely differ in what their views are on AI. I think in the long run, AI is going to displace many jobs, but create many more jobs. Where I think people may be surprised is on market valuations and who wins from AI. Just like we learned in the telco boom in the 90s, a lot of the first movers lose money, but ultimately it raises productivity. We may well see that play.
Let's go there. I mean, Glenn Hubbard with us, folks. For all of you worldwide on YouTube and all of our radio affiliates in America, thank you for joining this morning. Glenn, you're teaching at Columbia, or frankly, at your Central Florida, and you have to discuss productivity. We're blind right now to where productivity is in 2025. When will we have an understanding of this new productivity?
Well, it's a great question, Tom, and the honest answer is it takes time. So if you look at previous waves of what economists call general purpose technologies like electricity or mainframe computing or the internet, they took a decade or more to really ripple through productivity. And the reason is it takes time for businesses, for individuals to adapt. I think it'll take less time this time. So it may be within 5 years, but we shouldn't be expecting it overnight.
Okay, but Paul and I have had this in many conversations, just brilliant work. And thank you to Richard Clarida for his support of the show. Glenn Hubbard, long ago in globalization, we broke a bargain with the clothing labor of the Carolinas. We said, we're going to retrain you, we're going to do this. Are we going to do the same thing with AI, where we go sort of AI globalization and we break the labor bargain with all those people pushed out of jobs?
I'm super worried about this point. It is the political economy question of our time. If you look at the past 3 or 4 decades, technological change is actually number one, then globalization. We didn't retrain people. We were too slow moving. AI is going to happen faster. I do worry about it. I hope the administration will become more focused on how do you get
come on. Glenn, I got time. I got 1 minute left. Glenn, let me cut to the chase. The elites are from the fancy schools up north. Granted, you did so well in the South. You went to Harvard. There's like 3 zip codes out near Palo Alto. There's the northeastern zip codes. You're one of the few people we have who viscerally gets the South. What's your message to the elites about not doing a redux of that busted globalization of years ago?
Well, 2 things. One, there's smart people and innovative ideas everywhere. We need applied research centers everywhere. We need to help places left behind. And second, our politics depend on this. If we want to embrace AI and all it brings, we got to get this right.
Glenn Hubbard, thank you so much. Great. Should I get off my soapbox right now? Glenn Hubbard, thank you so much. Always and forever with Columbia University. Stay with us. More from Bloomberg Surveillance coming up after this.
This is the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. Listen live each weekday starting at 7 a.m. Eastern on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. You can also listen live on Amazon Alexa from our flagship New York station. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130.
I need to set this up for our American audience. Sir Howard Stringer is from the low side of Wales called Cardiff. David Blanchflower of Dartmouth is from Cardiff as well. And he had the most interesting start to his career. You know him, of course, from Sony. You know him perhaps from CBS. Paul Sweeney and I can do a 3-hour discussion with Stringer. He's 79 and holding, Paul, just so you understand. Sir Howard Stringer joins us this morning here, but specifically on the BBC and what it means for his United Kingdom. Sir Howard Stringer, thank you so much for joining Bloomberg this morning.
My pleasure.
I look, Sir Howard, at the debacle of the BBC, and let me just get out of the way the arch question, maybe alluded to by the former Prime Minister Johnson as well. Should the BBC leave as a publicly funded effort and join private enterprise?
I would say not. I would say the brilliance of the BBC, it was designed as an institution that would be fairer and offer truth and fairness to a British audience and subsequently to a worldwide audience with a worldwide news network. And in many ways, American television was built on that standard. And so giving that trust up, giving that opportunity up, I think would be a mistake.
How do they restructure emotionally? How do they recapture the minds of the United Kingdom to say, you can trust us? It's been shattered with this debate with President Trump folks suggesting he will sue the BBC for many billions of dollars. Howard Stringer, what is the first step to rekindle a new trust with the British?
Well, I think with all great institutions, leadership is critical, and presumably there will be discussions about who runs the BBC now very quickly and how the board is constructed, and lessons will be learned. I think that's been true across the board. When I was at CBS News, we were under attack by the government. I had conversations in a lawsuit with General Westmoreland, and before that, I had conversations with Presidents Nixon and Reagan, that news division is only a part of the BBC, but news divisions are always the threat to politicians. And politicians tend to dislike you if you suggest they're wrong. And so the BBC has always had a reputation for fairness. Now it's under attack now, and I think lessons will be learned regardless of what we feel about it. But the BBC is very important to global democracy, and I think President Trump knows that.
Howard Stringer with us. Sir Howard Stringer, folks, this morning here with all of his work with Sony and CBS News over the years. We welcome all of you, and particularly the United Kingdom this morning with the uproar over the BBC. Paul Sweeney with Sir Howard.
Howard, how does the BBC, how is it positioned in the UK today in the media, overall media landscape? How has that changed over time?
Well, I think it's misunderstood or dimly perceived in the U.S. After all, I spent most of my life in America. I worked 30 years at CBS, but today the BBC still has the top-rated entertainment broadcasts in a way that would be CBS today would be proud, or NBC would be proud. I mean, before Christmas, the top 10 programs on television in England were BBC programs. But this story is about news. News is always the catalyst for politicians who disagree with opinions that they perceive to be either unfair or inappropriate. That was true when I was at CBS, and it's true in England today. So it's a lesson for both sides. If you're going to deal with presidents or deal with issues, you have got to be fair, and you've got to have the audience believe in the institution that you represent. And for many years, the BBC was a byword for trust and fairness around the world.
Right.
Worldwide news, the BBC operation, is the most trusted globally. And I've had people call me many times in the last few weeks and saying, protect us because we watch the BBC because nothing else works for us in wherever country they're calling from. So the President of the United States has observed a moment that is a challenge to the BBC News operation, which I think they understand and accept. And apologies should maybe have been offered earlier.
Right.
But I think the BBC knows what its responsibilities are.
Howard, do you believe that the damages being sought by President Trump are reasonable, or how do you think about that side?
I think it's reasonable, but I also think that President Trump knows Britain very well. I knew him personally, and he was very generous to me. And suing the BBC is sending a message that be fair, be true to yourself. Whether or not England will pay $1 billion, I doubt that they will, and I doubt that President Trump really wants that. I think he wants the BBC in a funny kind of a way to behave.
We welcome all of you worldwide on YouTube, our new digital distribution, and of course on radio from our various sources, 99.1 FM in Washington, 92.9 FM in Boston, Bloomberg 11.30 in New York. Sir Howard Stringer with us this morning with his decades of work. You heard him speak of General Westmoreland there, what takes us as far back. Just to give you a little vignette, Sir Howard Stringer at a very young age answering telephones backstage for the Ed Sullivan Show.
Oh, okay.
This goes back a few decades. Sir Howard, let me ask a delicate question of the United Kingdom. The present beleaguered and resigned leader of the BBC is perceived as a marketing guy. You were in the New York Times talking about this. How does the BBC get back to the intensity you're speaking about? Do they have to find a world-class journalist to drive forward?
Well, I think that the mistakes that were made, which have been presented accumulatively, gives a mistaken impression that there's something institutionally wrong with the BBC News. These were mistakes that have now been acknowledged and should have been acknowledged earlier. But I don't think there's anything about the BBC that should be suspect. I think the BBC, like Britain, is an astonishing ally of the United States and an important one. And I think the President of the United States knows that. In my dealings with him, I think he knew it, and he was always fair and generous. I think he's fired a shot across the brows of the BBC. They will pay attention. They are made changes, and that will be good. But the BBC is an important global institution, and I don't believe you start breaking up great institutions during a crisis.
Look, Sir Howard, just one final question, if we could, in the BBC, and we must turn to so much going on in Paul Sweeney's world in New York as well. And talking to our Eric Larson off our desk on Queen Victoria Street, and looking at the litigation here as well, how will that play out in the United Kingdom? Inform our American audience of how a lawsuit in London is different than a lawsuit wherever in the United States.
I'm not sure I really understand that question.
Well, I mean, the litigation is going to be in the United Kingdom. How is it different there if the president sues the BBC than it would be here?
Well, I was sued in America, as you remember, over the General Westmoreland thing, and it went on for years. And I don't think President Trump will keep at this. I think he is much bigger fish to fry. I think he has sent a very important message. I think the BBC will respond accordingly, and I hope he doesn't expect the British public to pay that kind of money. I think his generosity will save the day.
Sir Howard Stringer with us, folks. Thrilled to have him with us this morning. Let me migrate, Sir Howard, to the United States and ask a question that so many will resonate with so much of our listeners and viewers. Could Dan Rather do the news today?
Does Dan Rather what?
Could he do the news today? Could Dan Rather grind out his leadership in news off the desk of CBS as he did years ago? Could he do that in this environment today?
Well, he can't do it now. I mean, he's still in good shape. The last time I spoke to him, and I spoke to him quite recently, but no, I don't think he would want to become an anchorman in his 90s, and I don't want to become a director general in my 80s either. But I think so much has changed in America. It's been fractionalized, and the networks aren't as strong as they used to be. When I was running the evening news, we had a 26 share of the news compared to ABC 20 and NBC 20. That combined audience was almost 70% of the national audience. That isn't possible in the United States today because of the fractionalization and the growth of competitive social media. So, another Dan Rather is likely to be unlikely, but I am not watching from a distance all the current anchormen, and I don't know anyone will ever have the power of Walter and Dan again, or Tom Brokaw and Roger Mudd and so forth. It's just the nature of the world. It's changing. But I think retaining some of the values, and the values that are most important are trust and honesty. And as long as we abide by those, and the BBC resurrects its reputation by concentrating on what it does best, we'll survive this, just as CBS did survive General Westmoreland.
Sir Howard, from your years at Sony Corporation, a major global media and entertainment company, what do you make of the landscape now? So much has changed with Netflix and streaming and so on and so forth. How do you feel like some of these traditional large global media companies like Sony, like the Walt Disney Company, like Warner Brothers, how do you think that landscape shakes out here?
That's $1 billion question. Unfortunately, it is a $1 billion question. Money plays a much bigger role than it used to. There were 3 networks, and then Rupert Murdoch built up Fox, so there were 4 networks. And now it's scattered and so forth, and people get what they want. But I think keeping solidarity and solidity at the center of the core institutions, you will find an audience, just as movies do. So I'm not prone to despair. I keep myself amused today doing radio dramas, and I still reach people in America and England. So I don't think there's plenty of good material. It's just not as concentrated as it used to be. But you can't look at the past. As somebody once said, the past is a foreign country, and they did things differently there.
Sir Howard, so going forward here, I mean, it's interesting. The world's changed so much in terms of delivering content to consumers. Consumers can now get anything they want, whenever they want, wherever they want. Is this a better world for consumers and content, do you believe?
Well, I think it's more complicated because so many choices are a bit confusing. And so truth becomes a little more obscure as people listen to whoever they listened to yesterday. They switch to somebody else today. So I think our customers are maybe a bit confused, but we still have to provide great content, and people will find it. People will watch it. And I saw the other day a new movie about Shakespeare as a young man and his family, and I thought, well, there's a lot of talent in America, and it still will attract an audience. So breathe a sigh of relief and keep on trying.
Sir Howard, thank you so much for joining Bloomberg this morning. Sir Howard Stringer, of course, with all of his work at Sony. I should note that he had a radio broadcast earlier this year on the BBC called Central Intelligence, which won many different awards in the United Kingdom. Stay with us. More from Bloomberg Surveillance coming up after this.
This is the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast. Listen live each weekday starting at 7 a.m. Eastern on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. You can also listen live on Amazon Alexa from our flagship New York station. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130.
The newspapers, folks, with Lisa Mateo.
Okay, see, you touched upon it, so we're going to dive into the season 2 of Landman, okay? It's the modern industry drama about the oil industry. It's what makes Sweeney an oil expert, sure. I'm telling you, okay? So the Telegraph is saying Demi Moore steals the show. Okay, so she plays Cammy Miller, right? She's the wife of this powerful oil guy, right?
Billy Bob.
No. She's friends with Billy Bob.
It was John Hamm.
Yes.
Right.
And
She's married to Mad Men.
Yeah, but he's not in this. He's not in this season. He died.
No,
I believe.
he died.
He died?
Yes.
Yeah, we're giving stuff away.
Earmuffs.
Continue.
So, okay, she's in charge of the company now. So she gave this great speech, and everyone is talking about it. So what she did on the show, she was talking to all these big oil wigs, and she said, the only difference between me and Monty is that I'm meaner. Test me, and you'll find out how much.
God, it sounds like you and him. 3 a.m.
Exactly.
But it was like she was in the background, right, for a little bit, and now she's kind of like thrust into the spotlight.
You're doing a screening this afternoon.
I'm going to do a screening this afternoon on the train home. Yep.
On the train home?
That's how it works.
You're so digital. I don't even know how to do that.
Exactly. That's how it works.
Do you get a signal when you go under the water?
Download it.
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. There
Next.
you go.
Next. Okay, we're talking about the ultra rich. Okay, they are spending a lot of money because they want to live in extreme privacy. This was in the Journal. Okay, so they're paying big bucks. They want exclusive experiences, right? They want private restaurants, clubs that save them time, customized service. So when they get to the table, their favorite cocktail's already sitting there. They have, chopsticks with their names on it. So it's all set for them. They arrive at hotels through back entrances. They go straight to the elevator, to the lobby.
Nice.
They don't have to go through the lobby. They go straight to the elevator, right up to their suite. They have a butler waiting for them. Okay, it's about not waiting to be in crowds. So they have this place. It's actually being built in Florida, the Bentley Residences condo tower. It's under construction in Sunny Isles.
Nice.
Car elevators take the residents straight up to their homes.
Yep, that's how you do it.
That's crazy.
I can't believe you people wait in the lobby, Lisa.
I did $6 million for one of you. Can't believe people wait in the lobby.
Yeah.
But people want the social clubs, right? They're paying $15,000, another $15,000 annually to be part of these social clubs to just make them feel, like they're
good for them.
Extreme. Yeah.
I'll see them at the Cracker Barrel on Sunday morning at church.
Maybe not. Not.
Yeah, maybe not. All right, what else we got?
Okay, what else we got? Okay, so the K-pop Demon Hunters, right? It's a big thing on Netflix.
This is.
Okay, Netflix. I finally watched it, so all the kids are into it too. The old kids too. So the school has actually banned the singing of the song from the show in the school. This is from the BBC. It's called the Lilliput Church of England Infant School in Poole, Dorset. Hopefully I'm saying that right. So they sent a message to parents. They said singing the songs is not good because it goes against its Christian ethos.
Oh boy.
So some of the parents said, we like the song. One dad said, my daughter likes it. Why can't she sing it if she likes it? It's this whole big, it's starting to get an uproar now.
All right.
But the school is kind of banning these songs, and it's huge here. You have all the kids. It was the Halloween thing. Like all the kids were dressed up as K-pop demon hunters. I know.
I don't know.
Okay.
Thank goodness I missed that.
It's still on Netflix if you want to check it out.
Right.
Maybe you could do that on the train ride home.
Yeah,
The streaming thing, Paul, is overwhelmed us. I mean, it's our new entertainment, period.
It's overwhelmed Hollywood. The brainiacs in Hollywood, the billionaires in Hollywood, they don't know what to do with streaming.
I don't disagree with that. We're not going to talk about streaming with Sir Howard Stringer in the 9 o'clock hour. Sir Howard on his BBC. The newspapers, Lisa Mateo, thank you so much.
This is the Bloomberg Surveillance Podcast, available on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Listen live each weekday, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern on Bloomberg.com, the iHeartRadio app, TuneIn, and the Bloomberg Business app. You can also watch us live every weekday on YouTube and always on the Bloomberg Terminal.